Looking to buy a new midsize sedan in the next year? Well, you've came to the right place because we have driven and extensively tested out every midsize sedan on the market right now. This is a big segment of vehicles, but today we're going to go over our top 5 picks in the midsize sedan segment.
Now, our rankings won't just be arbitrary. They're going to be based on scores in the 5 most important categories for midsize sedan shoppers. So after expert evaluation in all of the midsize sedans, what are our top picks? Let's go ahead and find out.
All right, so before we get started here, I think it's important to go over what are going to be our 5 most important categories to consider with midsize sedans. So we've got our scores into these segments: space, luxury, powertrain, technology, and driving dynamics. So we think that those categories are, of course, very important for the midsize shoppers, and inside of each of those categories, we'll be awarding a point 1 through 5. 5 is going to be the exceptional category, 3 is average, 1 is poor. Obviously you have above and below average as well. So let's get into the numbers. There's going to be 7 total options in this segment, so let's see our top 5.
So let's go ahead and start out with our number 5 pick, which is the Subaru Legacy. Now, coming in at a total score of 13, this is a pretty good score because it's a pretty good midsize sedan. Some of the best areas for this vehicle would be its technology as well as its luxury. It does also have a good amount of space.
Right, and overall, you should buy the Subaru Legacy if you're really concerned about having that big display, a nice interior, and symmetric all-wheel drive being standard on all trim levels. All right, cruising into the number 4 slot is going to be the Kia K5. Now, before we discuss this model, I do want to caveat that we're talking about the 2024 model. There will be a refreshed model that's coming out in the future, but we haven't had any hands-on time with that, so we can't really grade what they've done to that model yet. So as it is today, it's going to be occupying the number 4 slot. Now, the strengths of the Kia K5 that it really scored high in involve space. You have a lot of trunk space, rear seat legroom. You also have a fun-to-drive nature. If you're choosing a midsize sedan, you probably want something that's more fun to drive than a crossover, and especially if you get the K5 GT with that 2.5 turbo, you're gonna have a good time behind the wheel. It scored a 2, though, in the technology because of a smaller 10.25-inch display, still not offering wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay abilities.
So overall, you should buy the Kia K5 if what matters most to you is a good driving experience, especially if you pick the GT model, as well as a lot of space. And may I also add, I think it's a pretty stylish offering. Now we're getting ready to get into the top 3. My anxiety is building about what these are, but first,
if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12
and 16. We may be young, but we love cars.
And we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family. Let's learn a lot, have some fun with all the latest cars.
Now moving to number 3, that would be the all-new 2025 Toyota Camry. Now, you're probably like, oh, well, that's kind of unfair that you're grading the new Camry and not the updated K5. Well, we actually have had extensive in-person experience with the all-new Camry, whereas the Kia K5 is not to that point just yet. We've sat in the Camry, and we actually have several reviews on the channel if you want to learn more about it. But as far as areas that it really shines in, it would be your technology. We now have a new updated infotainment display that has wireless abilities. It's high resolution. The software runs really, really nicely. We also have digital gauge cluster as well as a head-up display, which is something that a lot of midsize sedans are not offering. It's also worth noting that it does have a hybrid exclusive powertrain. So if you like hybrids, you certainly will appreciate that, and it's going to get really great fuel economy, but do keep in mind you are going to be locked into that hybrid powertrain.
Right. Specifically, you'll notice that we rated it as a 3 in the powertrain department, and that is because of only being hybrid. Most of the other competition is going to give you more options in terms of your powertrain selection, so that might be a con for some of you guys to consider in the future, but it is going to be locked into a hybrid that excels in fuel economy.
So overall, you should buy the new Camry if what matters most to you would be technology, because it is going to be one of the best technology midsize sedans that you can get. And also, I would suggest if you like hybrids, the Camry is going to give that as the standard option across the entire lineup.
All right, suspense is building as we move to the number 2 spot in the midsize sedan segment, and that today is going to belong to the Honda Accord. This, of course, is a famous nameplate that's been around for a long time, and a lot of you guys have experience with it. The new generation really doubles down on the classic things that Accord is known for. You'll notice that it scored a 5 in space. It is huge, even compared to the already large rivals, which gives it high marks in that regard. It also achieves high marks in things such as driving dynamics. Honda does a great job of building in that fun to drive nature even into their mainstream sedans like the Accord and Civic.
And it's also worth noting that this new Accord actually has the best infotainment setup in the entire Honda brand. The Pilot doesn't get as good of a setup as what you get in the Accord, so the tech is where this Accord model came in at a 4, and then as far as overall luxury, it came in at an average 3.
But overall, you should buy the Honda Accord, well, for a plethora of reasons, as we already mentioned, but really just because it is a very well-rounded sedan in this marketplace. Before we get to the number 1 pick, if you're interested in buying any of the models you've heard about so far, we have a tool on our website that will help you out. This tool on our website will connect you to local dealerships in your area to get you the best price on your new car and also access to invoice pricing. So head to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to learn more. A link is in the description below.
And we do also want to remind you, if you're wanting to learn more about each model specifically, we have reviews on the channel as well that you probably will want to check out.
Absolutely.
And drum roll, please, as to our number 1 pick in the midsize sedan segment. Well, that's actually going to be the Hyundai Sonata. And this is the updated 2024 Sonata. It actually beat the Accord just by 1 point, so it barely eked out the win here. But the Sonata really rocks in all 5 of these categories that we have mentioned today. Namely, its best category is the powertrain department, especially for this updated model, because the updated 2024 Sonata adds all-wheel drive and you still keep a ton of different engine options. You have a hybrid option, you have a high-performance inline option, you have a traditional gas setup as well. So you really have the full gamut when it comes to powertrain.
Right, and Hyundai lets you kind of mix and match as well, so you can choose the hybrid, but also a variety of different trim levels versus some of the rivals that lock you in to hybrid on certain trim levels exclusively. And we also have big tech improvements. That's another area where we get high marks because they've now added wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. You have a 12.3-inch display, tying the largest offered in the segment. And they continue to offer things like your blind spot cameras, which are very nice features to have when you're living with the vehicle day to day. In the first category, space is not quite as big as the Honda Accord, but it still offers a lot of trunk space as well as rear area for your legs. And if we're also talking about driving dynamics, obviously Mason and I have had a 2021 inline in our fleet for several years at this point, and it's a lot of fun to drive. They're not changing that for 2024, so it's still going to be a blast to take out on a back road, surprisingly quick, and we have really a lot of cool or high performance with that dedicated dual clutch automatic transmission.
All right, and that is where we're going to leave off on this video. Now, of course, we didn't have time to talk about all 7 options, so some honorable mentions here would be the Nissan Altima and Chevy Malibu that didn't quite make the top 5 list for us on this particular video, but do keep in mind there are unique advantages for picking certain models in every vehicle segment as well. You know, it depends on personal preference.
That's what I was going to mention, is just we've picked our 5 top categories based on what people care about in this segment the most, but there's obviously a lot of considerations, and some of the categories you might have a strong preference towards a specific thing, and in that case, then that's going to put that model ahead on the overall chart for you. Now, of course, like we said, we got to spend a lot of extensive time with all of these models, and we've done our best to really weigh those points and get you guys the most comprehensive kind of list that we can. But we do want to know what you guys' opinions are down below. Please let us know, what order would you put these midsize sedans in? And is there one of them that really stands out above the rest for you guys?
And that's where we're going to leave off on this video. If you haven't already subscribed to Car Confections, please hit that subscribe button down below. That helps us to make more videos like this, as well as our signature review videos. If you are already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support. And we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.